Good question.
Well, there had come a time in Israel before the accounts here where the northern tribes had set up an entire new temple and they worshiped there instead of making the long trek down to Jerusalem. I think it was Solomon's two sons that divided the kingdom, got divided because of Solomon's sins. And they finally just got tired of making that trek and just went ahead and built the temple. They assigned their own priests and everything.
Those were the
But
lost
these
sheep
people,
of the
right,
house of Israel.
but
Yeah.
these people were not part of the northern kingdom. These people were all part of Judah.
Yeah, I was gonna get to the fact
The
that,
northern kingdom was carried off. They were carried off into Syria a good 700 years before this ever happened.
and well, again, if I would have got to finish, even at the time when Yeshua was walking around, there was still a great division on where to worship. Because when he went into Samaria, the Samaritan says, well, our people say worship here, you say worship in Jerusalem. And he tells them, there's coming a time when you're not going to worship here nor there, because the Father desires those who worship him in spirit and in truth. He says he's a spirit, that's where you must worship. So there was still, even at his time, people that weren't going to go down to Pentecost and the Passover over there, because they had set up their own little deal over here. And so a lot of people didn't come, everyone didn't come.
Many of the Samaritans were descendants
Yes.
of the northern tribe. We know that to be true because the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well, she made the statement to Yeshua, our father Jacob gave us this well. If she was not a descendant of Jacob, he would have told her so. When she made a little false statement about her husband, he corrected her real fast. Yeah,
Again, so my
you
point was,
had 5 husbands, and the one you got now is not your husband.
the point was that she said the Jews have no dealing with us. Therefore, they worshiped in a wholly, completely different mountain, even though they were descendants of Jacob.
Right.
They were actually kind of mixed breeds. And
I'm
that's
not disagreeing with you. I'm just.
so, well, someone had mentioned everyone wasn't coming to Pentecost, everyone wasn't coming to Passover. And there was a reason for that. There was a great division still that was caused way back when Solomon's sons had set up 2 different places to worship.
That's because they were disobedient. Jeroboam made his own feast.
Yes.
So a month later.
I know.
And the lost sheep of
He was
Israel
afraid
and
that
then
people-
closer.
That's like
right,
the Sunday.
worship. I don't-
It's like the Sunday people.
And then fall
Show
away
up.
from him.
Right, it's the Sunday people,
Then you're called, but you show up.
if you show
I
up.
could appreciate having a closer place to worship, like what was called the lost sheep of Israel. Because I mean, I can't have an assembly of Yahshua close enough to my house.
Yeah.
It'd have to be 212 and a half.
You know, when Jeroboam set those calves up, he didn't just say, this is your God. This is your Elohim. He said, this is the one that brought you up out of Egypt. He was saying, this is Yahweh.
Right, was
That's
false.
what he was telling it.
Well, they paid the price for it.
And after a certain amount of time, people believe.
Right.
You know, I'm sure the ones that were there originally knew better,
Dangerous and
Over
false
time.
doctrines right there.
but over time, they didn't know no better.
And that's the dangers of false doctrine. If you preach it long enough, people will start to believe it.
That's right. Exactly.
All right, anything else on that? We noticed that many of these people, they knew that these tassels that he were wearing meant a lot. Of course, in the King James Bible, they deleted that. But here it tells you, these people were coming and grabbing those tassels in order to be in touch with him. And the woman who had the issue of blood, she never touched the hem of his garment. She grabbed these tassels. And the scripture is plain on that if you go and look at the Greek. So it's a very important thing, I believe, and obeying the scripture and grabbing his tassel. Now, that's his tassel, I believe. It represents his word. Okay, David, you want to read chapter 7?
Then come together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes. And I'm,
Real loud now.
all right.
He's not, he is not.
Yeah, I'm reading out of the Sacred Name King James Version. It's,
All right.
it's gonna be, it may be a little different in some spots. It's the Sacred Name King James Version. Everything's the same as the King James, but they put Yeshua and Yahweh back in. So they came together unto him Pharisees and certain scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Yehudim, unless they wash their hands often, eat not, holding the tradition of the elders. When they come from the market, unless they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brazen vessels, and of tables. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, why walk not your disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? He answered and said unto them, well has Isaiah said and prophesied about you hypocrites, as it is written, the people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. For laying aside the commandments of Yahweh, you hold the traditions of men, as the washing of pots and cups and many other such like things you do. And he said unto them, full well you reject the commandments of Yahweh, that you may keep your own traditions. For Moshe said, honor your father and your mother, and whosoever curses father or mother, let him die the death. But you say, if a man shall say to his father or mother, it is Corban, that is to say, a gift, by whatever you might be profited by me, he shall be free. In other words, they were taking bribes that overlooked certain violations of the commandments. And you allow him no more to do anything for his father or his mother, making the word of Yahweh of no effect through your traditions, which you have delivered, and many such like things you continue to do. And when he had called all the people unto him, he said unto them, listen to me, every one of you, and understand. There is nothing from outside of man that entering into him can defile him. But the things which come out of him, those are they that defile a man. If any man has ears to hear, let him hear. And when he had entered into the house from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. And he said unto them, are you so without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatever thing from outside enters into a man, it cannot defile him? Because it enters not into his heart, but into the belly, and it goes out down the toilet and purges all food. And he said, that which comes out of the man, that's what defiles the man. For from within, from out of the heart of man, proceeds evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man. And from there he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon, and entered into a house, and would have no man know it, but he could not be hidden. We talked about that a minute ago. He couldn't hide his movements or anything he did. For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she begged him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. But Yeshua said to her, let the children first be filled, for it is not good to take the children's bread and to cast it to the dogs. And she answered and said to him, yes, Adonai, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said to her, for this saying, go your way, the devil is gone out of your daughter. And when she had come to her house, she found the devil gone out, and her daughter laid upon the bed. And again, departing from the coast of Tyre and Sidon, he came to the Sea of Galilee through the midst of the coast of Decapolis. And they brought to him one that was deaf and had an impediment of his speech. And they begged him to put his hand upon him. And he took him aside from the multitude and put his fingers into his ears, and he spat and touched his tongue. And looked up to heaven and signed and said to him, Ephphatha, how do you say that?
If Rafa,
If, I didn't say
if
Rafa.
Rafa.
Okay, that is be open. Let's see, these are in English. And straightway his ears were open, and the string of his tongue was loosened, and he spoke plainly. And he charged them that they should tell no man. There that is again. But the more he charged them, so much the more a great deal they published. And were beyond measure astonished, saying, he has done all things well. He makes both the deaf to hear and the dumb to speak.
All right,
Yeah, I misunderstood. I thought it was Rafa. It's Epata.
Yeah, there's no R, so it's like, oh, let's see an R.
all right, start series talking about
That's
clean and unclean. And talk about the Pharisees. And all the Jews, except they wash their hands often and eat not, holding to the tradition of the elders. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be, which they have received a hold, as the washing of cups, pots, brazen vessels, and tables. When I read that, I think of my wife. My wife, I've always thought, you know, she must be a descendant of the Pharisees. Now, all the Pharisees were bad now, don't get it. I had a dream last night. Another dream. And I was dreaming that we were having some work done. And there was a sister come from another place. And she was all really dressed up, really, really nice, very nicest clothes. But we were working, getting some work done, and she wanted to join in. But she says, I don't really think I can get out and do all that the way I'm dressed. And I said to her, don't worry about it. My wife will supply you anything you need to wear to work in. And she said, yes, but would it be clean? And I said, you don't need to worry about that. I said, anything that my wife would offer you to wear, you can be sure that she would be sure that it was clean. So I don't think it's anything wrong with being clean. I think it's a very good thing. But the thing of it is, these Pharisees made this a part of their religion.
That's
If you did not do these clean things that they did, then you were not part, you know, because it was actually a religious service. This was a religious service that they washed everything. It had to be washed exactly right. The chest and everything, you know? Nothing wrong with having clean pots, clean plates. We all want clean utensils, don't we?
Yeah, in a couple places he said that they do these things as an outward show, but they don't keep the weightier matters of the law. It's like to love your neighbor as yourself, to give someone shoes that don't have any shoes on. They were more worried about the religious service and how well it would go before Yahweh. That's why I said outwardly you look clean, but inward inside, like dead men's bones are in there. It's a whitewashed sepulcher. You know, it's only made for, you know, for the dead. Yeah, it's all show. It's all outward.
Anybody else?
Well, it's clear that, that he compared their traditions, they set up the tradition of men. They were putting those higher than the commandments of God. And that's what he really went into him on that. He says that, in fact, he gave in verse 10, he gave an example, the fifth commandment about honor father and mother. And then he gave a part of the law right after that. Who curses father and mother, let him die the death. I think that was in,
Verse 10.